Hello and welcome to Boxes of Comics. This week we are reviewing Star Wars Visions Episode 2, and this is the next episode in the Star Wars Visions franchise. As last week we started a brand new Tuesday Night Live sort of spill. As you might previously know, we've done a bunch of different books, and now I figured we could do something different, and so I decided to review this brand new Star Wars TV show. So last week I gave a spill on um, what exactly is Star Wars Visions and what it was, how it felt, and kind of gave you some background as this is our main focus on Tuesday nights for the next few weeks here, as we're going to review the entire series and do one episode each Tuesday night. So last week we did episode 1, and tonight we will do episode 2. So this episode, if you are unaware, is episode 2 of Star Wars Visions. It is titled Tatooine Rhapsody, like Bohemian Rhapsody, but it's Tatooine. And so this one, I personally thought it was pretty enjoyable. Um, but coming off of number one, I thought number one was definitely better. I thought it was a better story. But number two was something unique, something original. And it's kind of cool because we hadn't really seen a bunch of music in Star Wars except for like the Cantina guys from episode 4. So that was pretty interesting. So I'm going to give a quick recap according to ReadySteadyCut.com. And it's just going to talk about it. So it says Star Wars Visions Episode 1, or Star Wars Visions Season 1, Episode 2 recap. Boba Fett is on hand to capture Gi, one of the members of an upstart rock band and a relative of Jabba the Hutt. Jabba wants him dead and is willing to pay for it, so Boba makes that happen. Despite his best efforts of the band, they can't rescue their friend. Not in the conventional sense, anyways, but they try to save him through the power of music, wielding a lightsaber hilt in a new way as a microphone to belt out and rock lyrics to a banging crowd on Tatooine. It's pretty ridiculous, obviously, and coming right after the seriousness and striking aesthetic of the opening episode. Seeing long familiar Star Wars characters such as Boba Fett, Jabba the Hutt, and Bib Fortuna rendered in a very traditional anime style doesn't quite feel like enough. There's a clear sense of humor, though, such as Jabba's tapping his slug tail along with the music, and with the entire concert of the band managing to secure Gi's freedom by impressing Jabba and taking him into a sponsorship deal. That has its pleasures. It's also true to Jabba's self-serving, greedy character, at least in a roundabout way. The episode doesn't do Tatooine Rhapsody any favors. It's fine, but it's fine enough that after the premiere, probably not the best idea. So, that was just a quick summary, and I have to agree with them that it did feel like a step down to episode 1 because I thought episode 1 was done perfect. It was a great way to introduce this brand new Star Wars. But episode 2 was pretty interesting to see because with the members of the band, you did have a member of Jabba the Hutt, you had a droid, a few aliens, and then you had this humanoid who I would imagine was a Jedi before the Empire came and rose into power. And that's just because with his lightsaber, he had turned it from a lightsaber into a microphone, which was pretty interesting to me. And he still uses the Force during his concerts. Like there was a part where they're doing the big Jabba concert, and he just like jumps up in the air and he just stays a bit longer than a normal person would, and he jumps a bit higher than a normal person would. That's because he uses the Force. And there's a couple of other times during smaller concerts that we see before they play this big concert. he also uses the Force. It's also interesting because he tries to ignite the lightsaber when not Jabba, when Boba Fett kidnaps his friend, who's the member of Jabba the Hutt. His name is Gi. So Boba Fett comes to capture Gi, and this humanoid goes and tries to fight Boba Fett, but his lightsaber just doesn't work because he turned it into a microphone. And they have no other choice but to follow Boba Fett to Tatooine, convince Jabba to let him play a song, and if it goes well, they live, and if not, they die. So that was pretty interesting. It was upbeat, it was funny, it had great sense of humor. The animation was very different from the first episode, but that's because it was a different studio, and I thought that it brought a new light into Star Wars that we probably haven't seen before, as Star Wars is typically more serious, more action, a little bit of romance. This was just purely music. Like, guys, this is like how I feel it was like, guys, here's an idea. What if we focus on an outer space band? Like, what would they do? How would we make them interesting? And then Disney kind of just went off of that. So that was pretty neat. I also enjoyed going back to Tatooine. That was fun to see. And it was like during the Empire times, but it felt like it could have also taken place during episode 1. The only reason I know it was during the Empire times because there was Boba Fett and there were also stormtroopers. But it just felt like it could have been during the prequel era because that arena that we saw in episode 1, that's where they did the pod racing. That's where they played their music, and it was like really packed and really full. And I just didn't really think that it would be thriving after the Empire took place. I thought maybe like people would be scared to go into big areas because the Empire would threaten them, but maybe not. So episode 2, Tatooine Rhapsody, was overall out of 10. I wouldn't rank it as high as episode 1 because I thought that episode 1 was probably a 7 or an 8. So I'd probably give this a 4. I'd give this, if episode 1 was an 8, this was probably a 6 out of 10. I'd say a 6 out of 10. It was 60%. It had the beginnings of a great story. It had character investment. Had a good plot, but it could have been a bit more feel to Star Wars, if that makes sense, because it was touched upon briefly with having one of the band members force sensitive and using it, but I thought maybe they could give him a bit more background, because in the beginning of the episode, if I remember, we do see him running away as a Jedi, but that's really it, and he stumbles upon Gi, who's a member of Jabba the Hutt. You also had some of the other band members that didn't really get touched upon that I felt like could have made it a bit more interesting. So, comparing it to episode 1, not as good. Still an entertaining story, like I said, probably a 6 out of 10, not an 8 out of 10. But I really enjoyed this, and I thought maybe it just got overshadowed by episode 1, if that makes sense. But I don't really think that any of the episodes per se were terrible. I think they were just unique and a new perspective on what Star Wars could and possibly should be in the future. I don't know. But yeah, I just wanted to keep it nice and constrict, nice and short, as we are now approaching 10 minutes. But that was episode 2 of Star Wars Visions. Next week is episode 3, and I think that's the twins. I'm not sure. But anyways, I will let you go. If this was interesting, let me know. Maybe we go ahead and continue doing these Star Wars visions, and we go into a bit more detail. So if you are interested in watching my review of Star Wars Visions episode 1, it would be off of last week's premiere. This one is episode 2, and next week starts episode 3, and that one, I think it's the twins. Let me look. Star Wars Visions episode 3. It is the twin, and that one I thought was pretty good. So next week we will talk about the twins, but I don't think there was a whole bunch to talk about with this one, since it focused mainly on a rock band, and they were trying to like become something big, and it was entertaining, like I said. But I'm gonna stop repeating myself, and I will see you all next week for Star Wars. For Star Wars episode 3. So, and update on our video. That should be coming out no later than this week. We finally finished it. We just have to find time to post it. And that one will be reviewing DC characters. So, I will see you all next week. Have a great rest of your night.